Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Tech Tip. Today we're going to take a look at the panel split optimization tool. This tool allows you to split a wall into smaller segments using the characteristics of the wall, for example, any opening positions, or maybe a variation in height. Other tools are also available to split your walls, but we'll be specifically looking at this tool for this purpose. Depending on the walls you've selected, you can choose how to split those walls. And using the panel split optimization tool, you'll be offered 4 scenarios to choose from, which we're willing to explore a little bit more closely inside of the tool. So to activate the panel split optimization tool, first we can select a wall, or we can select multiple walls. You can also activate the tool, select walls after you've activated the tool, but my preferred method is to select my walls first, and then go to the tool in order to activate it. So first I'll go to my MWF tab, go into my wall menu, markers, and go to the panel split optimization option, which is near the bottom of the list. Once I click on this, it will take me into my panel split optimization menu. Here you'll see at the top left, I have the 4 walls that I've selected, which are listed here. And if I select one of my walls, you'll notice on the right for the wall information, this gets populated based on the parameters that it reads from my wall. So the wall height is currently set to 10 feet. This particular wall has 2 openings. The length of this wall is 30 feet, and there are currently no key markers present in this wall. Key markers is referring to any existing split markers that are placed within the wall, and at the moment there are no existing markers in this wall. I can either select one wall, or I can select multiple walls, and if I wanted to select all of my walls, I can click on Select All Walls and apply all of these parameters and settings to all the selected elements at once. For now, I'm going to focus specifically on wall A, and I'm going to just run through these options here at the bottom. So panel stud spacing, this is where we can set a stud spacing value, which would represent the stud spacing that we're using in our panels. We have the opening left gap adjust, which is where we can place a value to offset our markers if they were to land within an opening. We could choose a tolerance to make sure that the marker is not placed within a certain distance of the opening. So for example, if I place a 4-inch gap adjustment here, the marker will be placed away from the opening 4 inches, at least 4 inches, if it were to land within the opening. Edge tolerance, this is where we can determine a value from the edge of the panel, so a split marker will not be placed within that distance or within that tolerance. So in this case, we have a 2 feet tolerance, and a marker will not be placed within 2 feet of the edge of the panel. Height limit, this is where we can set the panel height limit, and the panel height limit will affect whether or not the panel is split to the normal panel length, or whether the panel length is split according to the height limit exceeded panel length. So I'm going to set for my panel height limit is 10 feet, just like the height of our panel is at the moment. My normal panel length, based on the height limit being set to 10 feet, will be 12 feet. And if the height limit is exceeded, so it's more than 10 feet, then I want the panel length to be no more than 10 feet. I want to place a split marker. So my split marker that I'm going to use is going to be the split wall horizontal marker that we have available. And on the right here, you can see we've got the option to cancel, which will disregard any changes that we've made. Calculate, which will allow us to calculate the values based on the parameters that we've set here. And apply, where we can apply our defined settings to the panel, which is currently selected. So what I'm going to do now is click calculate, and that will allow me to see the 4 scenarios based on the parameters that I've set. So scenario A, B, C, and D, as you can see on the right, we have the number of panels. So we've got 3 panels for scenario A, 3 panels for scenario B, 4 for C, and 4 for D. So what these are referring to is the scenarios which are highlighted here and explained in a little bit more detail. So scenario A is calculated from start point to end point, always stops at key markers, and will only stop at openings if the panel ends in the middle of one. And for scenario B, we have the inverse of scenario A, where rather than start from the beginning of the panel, it will start from the end and work its way back to the beginning of the panel. Scenario C is calculated from wall start point to end point and always stops at key markers. Always stops at openings, even if the panel does not end in the middle of one. So even if the marker is not placed within an opening, it will still stop at openings and place a new panel at openings. And scenario D is again an inverse of scenario C, where rather than start from the beginning of the panel, it will start from the end. So we have 4 scenarios there, scenario A, B, C, and D. And as you can see, we have the same options available to select in our scenario options here in the table. On the right-hand side, based on the scenario that we've selected, you can see on the right we have the panel lengths. And for scenario A, we have 3 panels of equal size. So panel 1 is 10 feet, panel 2 is again 10 feet, panel 3 again is 10 feet. If I was to choose panel C, you can see that we have panel length, which is 6.5 feet, and you can see the panel lengths are slightly different for each scenario based on calculating from the start or end of the panel. For now, I just want to apply scenario A settings to my wall A, and I'm going to click apply. And that will allow me to apply those settings to panel A. So I've already taken the time to apply the scenarios to each wall. So each wall has the corresponding scenario based on its name. So wall A, for example, has scenario A, wall B has scenario B, so on and so forth. So now if we take a look at one of the plan views, we'll be able to see how the split markers have been distributed based on the settings that we applied to each wall using the panel split optimization tool. So what I need to do is place a dimension to see exactly where these split markers are positioned within each wall. So I'm going to go to the Annotate tab. I'm going to go to Aligned Dimension, and I'm going to click to place dimensions for each split marker. So you can see for wall A, they've been placed evenly at 10 feet, as we asked for, and as you saw in our settings. For wall B, you'll notice if we measure, because wall B was placed from the end of the panel to the start, that we need to measure from the end this time. You'll notice this time, the split markers have been placed, but they haven't been placed evenly or in the same manner that they have been placed for wall A. This time, wall B has had to take into consideration the location of the opening from the edge of the panel. And because we set a tolerance of 4 inches to an opening, or 4 inches away from an opening, you'll notice when I take a measurement from the opening to the split marker, that is indeed 4 inches away. And that has also affected the length of the panels that are created thereafter as well. For panel C, because we're taking this from the start of the panel, you'll notice when I measure to the split marker, it does stop at openings. And as you can see, based on it stopping at openings, it's placed the marker away from the opening by 4 inches, just like we asked for. And if I was to continue taking these measurements, you'll see that it makes sure that our panel spacing is maintained, and it makes adjustments accordingly where it needs to in order to place the split markers away from those openings. So you'll see again here, it places the opening 4 feet, the marker 4 feet away from the opening. For panel D, you'll see based on the split markers being placed from the end to start again, we have to measure from the end point to the start of the panel. And again, you'll notice we did ask for 10 feet for the length of our panels. But this time, again, it's had to maintain that 4-inch spacing away from an opening. And that has also affected the placement of the panels to make sure that they maintain that distance away from the opening. So that was this panel split optimization tool, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.